Speeds.
Second segment is about the upcoming match. And
Darshan,
then the last segment is a fun segment. Okay?
Fun?
Fun. Well, it depends how fun you make it. Okay?
Got it.
Can we keep it down just a little bit?
Yeah.
Guys, can we keep it down a little bit?
Ooh.
Thanks. Got it.
Yeah. I was gonna be like, guys, please. There you go. Okay, I'm trying not to move. Also, if you can answer with the question at the beginning of your answer.
Aye, Captain.
You got it.
You guys recording?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Action.
Okay. So let's start with an introduction so you can say your name, position, and team.
My name is Darshan Upadhyay, and I play top lane for Counter Logic Gaming.
So let's start with looking back at the spring split. You guys came back from World, you guys had a break, and then coming into spring, what were your thoughts and expectations?
Well, we did pretty well at IM San Jose, and I kind of expected that we'd get first place because whenever I compete, I always shoot to be the best and nothing less. So we got second place, and that's fine because it doesn't really matter for anything. It's just about how well we do in playoffs. So we got the bye. All we have to do is do well in playoffs.
And then there was, you guys had a few roster changes with Huhi in the mid lane and Stixay in the AD. What were your thoughts on the shift?
Well, I thought that it was for the better because with the roster we had, we were kind of slowing down on our growth as a team, and I felt like we definitely need to make some type of changes, and I think picking up Huhi and Stixay were the right choices, and they've definitely improved a lot over the course of the split.
Since their addition, how have they changed the way the team played?
I think Huhi is a lot more vocal than Pobelter was, and I think Stixay plays a lot better in team fights than Doublelift, and he doesn't always require the team to play around him, and I think he's much more willing to follow the team.
Okay, so last season you guys were the LCS Champions. So coming into this split, did that add any sort of pressure, or how did that affect maybe your thoughts and mentality going into the season?
I think we're a completely different team, so coming into the season with everyone seeing us as the defending summer split champions of NA isn't really fair because we're kind of different. As a team, we have 2 new rookies, and I still thought we're going to win the spring split, but I don't really compare ourselves to that team because we're not.
So this team, since the beginning of this split to where you are now, how do you feel the team has grown or improved?
Well, when you start out in your first split, and when I started out in my first split, I didn't really have that good of an understanding of the game, and I didn't really have people to teach it to me. And I think Huhi and Stixay had a much better understanding of how to play the game. And then Afro, Jake, and I and the coaching staff were there to help them. Do we need to redo that?
Yeah, so we have the fire truck.
Okay.
Fire truck.
I was just score. Double check. Oh, yeah.
Let's wait that fire truck out, guys.
all
We
good.
good to go?
Good to go.
All right.
Nice. Can we say it again?
Yeah.
Good to go.
Okay. So comparing from the start of the split to the end of the split, how do you feel like the team has improved or progressed?
So I think when you start your first split out as a rookie, there's a lot you need to learn about the competitive aspect of the game. And I think Huhi and Stixay already had learned a decent amount of that, but with me, Jake, and Afro, and the coaching staff to kind of help them with everything we've already learned and bring them up to speed, really accelerated their growth and allowed them to get a lot better, a lot faster. And I think we're coming into form for this playoffs really strong, and we just have a lot more to improve on, and a lot we are improving on as opposed to towards the end of last season.
Okay, now looking back at this split, what do you think was the highlight for you?
Well, I think the win I enjoyed the most was the win against Immortals because, and it's kind of obvious, but we were the only team to beat them, and I thought we played split pushing pretty well as a team, and I'm pretty happy about how we practiced leading up to that week. Beating Immortals in the Cloud9, I think the reason we beat them is we had a really good idea of what we wanted to do, and in every game we strive to accomplish that in practice and then emulated that on LCS stage.
Speaking of that Immortals game, so like you two, like Huni and you are the top 2 NA talent, in the top lane. So when you face off against each other, how does that like change the way you approach the game? Do you get more hyped for games like that?
I think it definitely feels good to beat Huni, but whenever I play Immortals, I'm 10 times more worried about Reignover than Huni. I think you could put another top laner that's also mechanically skilled like he is, and they would have very similar results. So I think what makes Huni look really good is how good Reignover is, and he's the player that I'm always looking out for. I'm not too worried about playing against Huni.
And so now looking back on the season, what do you think was the most difficult moment for you?
Honestly, not too sure. I guess I would say our loss against TSM was pretty disappointing.
How come?
Because I didn't really feel like we did anything. We kind of just lost the game, and it just felt really weird playing that game because it felt like we didn't have control of it as a team when I felt like we could have easily just taken control and won the game.
Do you remember what it was like walking off the stage after that game?
Just pretty disappointed with how I played and how we played as a team.
Okay. Now, I wanted to ask about, so like this season, I think one of the biggest meta, shifts or meta focus was that like tanks were huge in the top lane. But with you and CLG, I think you continuously play carry tops. So why is that a decision that the team and you make?
Well, it's always easier to just play tank tops because it takes less skill required, and they're always going to be effective at a certain level. But to play carry tops, not only do you have to be like good, but you have to understand the matchups well. You have to get ahead consistently, and you have to actually make a significant difference every game, as opposed to playing a tank where you can play a tank, get behind, or not farm as well, or mess up somehow, and you'll still be relevant. Like if you're playing Maokai, Nautilus, Poppy, whatever, they're really easy champions to play, and they'll always have high impact. But if you play something like Ryze or Kennen or whatever it is, they usually are harder to play. And so I'm the kind of player who wants to play the best thing to play, and sometimes it's better to play carries, and I want to abuse that situation when I can. But that doesn't mean that I won't play tanks. I think it's about having the perfect balance because top lane has a lot of options. I think it's the most versatile role in that you can have a lot of roles for your team. You can have a lot of roles as a top laner, but figuring out what the best is for yourself, your team, and in that current situation is what differentiates a lot of teams and a lot of top laners.
Speaking of that, I wanted to actually ask you about a specific game. The game I think was against Team Liquid when you played Yasuo against the Nautilus. I think that stands out a lot to people because that was kind of like what was the thought behind that? So can you explain the thought with picking Yasuo into Nautilus and how that ended up? I think you guys lost that game too. Yeah, so tell me that.
Well, I actually didn't even want to play Yasuo into Nautilus that game, but I had been practicing it, and we were under the impression that Yasuo would do well into Nautilus, so we decided to pick it, even though there were other picks that were better in that situation. And it just ended up turning out poorly because I got pressured really hard, and we weren't able to get myself back into the game. And then I think there was one part where I misplayed with Huhi, and then Lee Sin got a double kill, and then after I'd lost all my pressure, we kind of lost the game. But even though I did play that matchup, I still had a lot of opportunities to carry the game. I just misplayed, but that's kind of putting yourself in a situation where it's a lot harder to win the game, and it relies on the player playing really well. So that's why I didn't think it was good for me to pick Yasuo in that situation.
Now looking at the season, and if you were to evaluate your own personal performance, how do you feel you did? Did you meet your own expectations?
I'm not really too happy with how I played. I think I played all right, but I think I should have and could have played a lot better.
So if you were to like criticize yourself, if you were to give yourself like some sort of advice or criticism, what would it be?
I think understand the map better at all times. I think that's probably my biggest problem.
Okay. And so if you were to go back this season and be able to change something, what would it be?
I would probably not pick Yasuo in a Nautilus again.
Can you say that again with the preface at the beginning?
Okay. If I were to change something about last split, I'd probably not pick Yasuo in a Nautilus again.
Perfect. Cut. That was segment 1.
Well, great job, guys. We really knocked that one out of the park.
Right?